think like at some point in everybody's life, you want to be, noticed, or you want to stand apart from everybody else. I think there's something that everybody wants to be known for, and I think that a lot of times we tend to look at other people to see what it is that we have to do in order to get there. And I know that was definitely, for me, something that I was so used to doing, because I didn't understand at the time, like, my own validation. I didn't understand my own worth. And so I always knew that I wanted to be somebody that people remembered. I wanted to be somebody that stood out from the crowd, but I didn't know how to do that without compromising on the things that I knew I believed in, that I stood for. And at that same time, I ended up starting to lose who I was and started to become like what everybody else wanted me to be, or how I thought everybody wanted me to be, trying to be this person that I knew wasn't me, but I just figured, like, I'm getting the attention, like I'm getting some type of validation and worth out of what they're saying based on what I'm doing. And that led me down some really dark paths, especially with lust and things like that, trying to seek validation in men instead of trying to know my own validation and who I was. And this really amplified when I got to college. I was the only person at my high school out of all my friend groups that came to Western, that came to Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo and Detroit, they two totally different things, if anybody know. It was a complete culture shock to me. I didn't understand half the people in Kalamazoo. I thought they was weird. So now it's almost kind of like this resetting of trying to figure out what people liked and what I thought that they would enjoy, and trying to mold myself to be that way. I'll never forget, it wasn't until I came on campus and I met these group of people in this Christian organization, and they were just on fire for the Lord. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, they really living for the Lord. I'm like, but they probably, go turn up on Saturdays and, come try to praise the Lord on Sunday. But I really just began to see they were really fighting for and were really committed to the lifestyle of trying to really live out, a Christian walk. And something that really resonated with me about them is that they were all authentic in who they were. They didn't care about what anybody else thought. They didn't care about, the things that happened in their past. They didn't care about, how people would perceive them. They were comfortable enough to be their open, authentic self. And I thought that was just the most dopest thing on the planet. And I was like, I want to be that way. And so just going through my life in my freshman year, I really began to seek God more. It was just as simple as just going to Bible studies or praying with folk on campus. And I really began to see myself really living this Christ thing out. Living for the Lord, lit, you know what I'm saying? I can really, see myself doing this, for the rest of my life. And with me being so open to God and being so open to spirituality and all those different types of things, I found myself being very naive and vulnerable, and that allowed for someone on campus to take advantage of the fact that I wanted to live for God and that I wanted to be more like Him. And so I began to find myself being in this very toxic and abusive relationship, abusive mentally, abusive physically, abusive emotionally, abusive sexually. I just began to see myself really falling into this cycle of chaos, and this cycle of basically, you present yourself one way to people, and then behind closed doors, you're this completely different person. And it was weird because that whole time that I was in that relationship, for 6 months, and that whole time that I was going through all of this pain and confusion and trying to figure out why is this stuff happening to me, what is going on, I never doubted God's love for me. I never doubted who God was in my life. I know a lot of people would try to ask me were you ever mad at God that situation happened? And I'm like, no, because I knew in my heart of hearts that wasn't what God had intended for me. I knew that God wanted me to be myself. I knew that God wanted me to be loved and to be heard and to be accepted by him. And I knew God would never hurt me or intentionally put somebody in my life to hurt me in that way. And I remember like walking up the hill to go to the library, because if you've been to Western, you know Western got a whole bunch of hills, steep hills. And I remember just walking up this steep hill, and I remember hearing God's voice as clear as day to me. And I remember him saying, if you continue to walk up this hill, you will not get free from this situation that you are in. And so I was cool with a couple of AO people for the last like 2 years that I was on college campus. And I was like, you know, like I see all these people, they go through this process and I see that their lives get like completely transformed. Like they go into it as one person and they leave out a completely different person. And I was like, that is what I need. And I just remember like at one point in my process being like, I am completely 100% okay with who I am. And that to me was just like the most like freeing, like dopest, hypest experience. It's literally like when you discover that you discover like your favorite song, you know what I'm saying? Like you like are like, okay, like I like this, and you would like put it on repeat over and over again. Like that's the type of experience I had. Like when I knew that I could be myself and I could be who God wanted me to be and really make an impact, I was like, yep, this is what I want to do. I really see myself really being somebody that is an influential asset in all spheres that I operate in. At work, you know, I'm a teacher of the arts. I see kids who have that potential to be great, and I love being able to draw that out of them the way that people drew that same potential out of me. And I just love the fact that God can take the same thing that I went through and be able to allow me to be able to use that to help other people see themselves the way that I see them and that God sees them. And so I definitely think that I'm not like everybody else, that I'm not meant to be like everybody else, that you will never find anybody else like me. You will never find anything else like me. I'm one of a kind, you know what I'm saying? And I love it. Like I would not want to be anybody else. I am Deshae Woods, and I am significance.